Hi, I'm Dr. Marc Reynolds, and I'm going to help you sing and perform more like the top artists around the world. I'm a professional voice teacher, performance coach, and opera stage director. I've helped thousands of singers around the world learn the techniques and methods that got the top singers to where they are. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. So part 1 was Save Me, which was the first part of this that was done live for M Countdown's version. And so now we're doing the second part of it here. Like the first part, we're pairing the live performance with the official music video so that you can compare and see the differences. And I think it's really fun and cool to see them juxtaposed together. Also, like the first one, there's kind of a game going on here where you'll see both videos and you'll try to guess which video is the actual one that the audio is coming from. Let's learn from BTS performing I'm Fine. Here we go. Okay, here in this moment, really cool. Want to take a moment to show this top view really shows us the rule of thirds and how they're splitting the stage up. You'll see that the 4 kind of corners here of these people kind of hit the intersection of the thirds here on stage. We have this central group that is framed by those thirds right there in the center. It creates this kind of static moment here. Where these 4 individuals are sitting here, not in the main center focus group, but these 4 ones, are often when you're on a stage where you want to put the islands of actions, where you want to put tables, chairs, or perform the majority of the action because aesthetically it's pleasing. Go ahead, I'll put some links down below to explanations on the rule of thirds and aesthetics and how that works. It's really, really cool, and it applies here to the stage. Something else I want to draw your attention to are symmetrical versus asymmetrical gestures. If we want our performance to look as close to everyday body language, if we want our performance to feel as organic and as natural as possible, then we want to avoid symmetrical gestures. In everyday life, it's very rare that we see someone have a perfectly symmetrical gesture. Symmetrical gestures are usually a sign of stress, duress, the fight or flight response. It comes into play. We've talked about this before. We see it all the time in singing performers because when we're singing and performing, it uses both hemispheres of our brain in a way that few other activities do. Consequently, because both hemispheres are firing at such a high rate, our gestures and body language is going to reflect that and be more balanced. Go figure. Crazy, right? So as a performer, if we want to be naturalistic, we want to make sure that we're keeping those gestures asymmetrical. Here they go back and forth. What's cool is that their gestures don't freeze. If they freeze, it just gives away and ruins it. Because they're symmetrical at some points, it's like an exclamation mark on their phrasing. Their symmetrical gestures kind of heighten the emotion there. It kind of acts as an exclamation mark in body language terms. Consequently, we have these moments where they're accentuating it, and because they're not all symmetrical, it still feels natural. It just feels like an exclamation mark. Then they go back and release that into an asymmetrical gesture, and then it comes back to a symmetrical gesture. But again, it doesn't hold. It's in constant movement and flux, which is even more important when we're trying to act naturalistic and have the audience believe what we're saying, is that there's no moment of freeze or stop or pause in our body language, that it's in constant motion. This doesn't mean constantly fidgeting. It doesn't mean you have to constantly be doing everything with every part of your body. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying there's not this moment of freeze. We don't want to freeze our gestures or have our body altogether stop. Notice when they're doing symmetrical gestures versus asymmetrical gestures and how you respond emotionally. I think you're going to find that you respond differently to asymmetrical versus symmetrical gestures. Kind of cool.
My God, 모든 나쁜 그리워 say goodbye. 잊었지만 외롭지 않은 걸 괜찮아 괜찮아 깜깜한 밤을 보면서 꿈을 흔들어 놓지만 두렵지 않은 걸 괜찮아 괜찮아.
In part one here, when they're doing Save Me, the music video and the live performance are so similar. They're both really dance oriented. The moves are really similar. Here they're not. The music video is actually transferring to really just everyday moments into really cinematic storytelling narrative. And so it's so different. It's so different. It's cool because that juxtaposition gives us more information. But my question to you is, why did they do that? Why in one video did they make it so similar and in this video do it so different? What does it achieve? Why would they do this? I don't mean that as a criticism. I just think it's really interesting to understand the creative process and to also understand how different modes of storytelling affect how we respond to it. And the feeling of these two pieces, especially when we're looking at the live versus the music video, are very different. We react to them emotionally in a very different way. See what you think. Comment down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say and what you think the difference is between the live performance and the music video and how you respond to each in a different way.
Just fine, fine, fine. 이제 너의 손을 놓을게. I know I'm on mine. 'Cause I'm just fine. I'm feeling just fine, fine, fine. 더 이상은 슬프지 않을래. Just see the sunshine, shine, shine. 'Cause I'm just fine, just fine.
So what's making the sound vocally that we're hearing right in this moment? Well, it's all the normal stuff in terms of upper two smile, consistent airflow, ass space in the back. What's making this particular sound is this larynx being raised a little bit. You'll see right there in that moment, we see this larynx riding pretty high. The result is really similar to if we have an acoustic guitar body, nice and big, and what would happen to the sound if we shrunk it? It wouldn't be as rich, it wouldn't be as full, it'd be a little more toy guitar sounding, a little more youthful, a little more innocent, not as complex of a sound. And that is also the result we get here. Does it mean that this is a bad sound or that it's bad singing? No, it's just a different way to shape the sound. That's going to create a different overtone and it creates this more youthful pop-like sound that is really still pleasant to listen to, sounds really healthy and sustainable, but that's what makes it sound unique and make it sound different from some of the other sounds that we're hearing in this moment. We'll talk more about that in a second. Would I recommend a high larynx position to an opera singer? Nope. Is this an opera singer? Nope. They're a pop singer. Great. As long as that sound is comfortable, easy, not fatiguing, and is easy to produce, and that they're able to keep it consistent, then go for it if it matches the style. And I think that's the case here.
I'm just fine. 내 아픔 다 이겨낼 수 있어. 너 없이 나. I'm just fine. 걱정 마. 이제 웃을 수 있고 네 목소리를 모두 알아주니까. I'm so fine, you so fine. 슬픔과 상처를 모두 다 이미 지나가 두목에 대하으니 웃으며 보내주자고. We so fine, I'm so fine, you so fine. 우리들 미래를 기쁨만 가득할 테니 걱정은 접어둔 채 이제 즐겨 수고했어. 차가운 내 심장은 널 부르는 법을 잊었지만.
What I love that I'm seeing here is how good they are at kind of this visual and audio baton tossing. How smoothly they're transitioning between people, between focus on just one person, then focus on the entire group. It's just so smooth. What can we learn from this? That transitions are so important. My experience has been that transitions usually get the least amount of attention when in fact they make the biggest difference and are the most important moments of a performance. So what can we learn today? Spend time up front at the beginning and give plenty of time to thinking through the transitions. Transitions from phrase to phrase, transition between sections of music, transitions where you're going from one person to another or to an entire group, or the host of other transitions that can be happening in between a song. Really give the attention there, because if you do, it'll pay off in the long run. Okay, the sound we're getting here is much more full, much richer. Why? Because the larynx position is in a lower position. Again, when I'm talking about higher larynx position in the previous video and I'm saying I wouldn't recommend it to an opera singer, does that mean that an opera singer is by default better than a pop singer? No, what I'm just saying is for an opera singer to not have that lower larynx is not going to give the right sound, isn't going to give the right harmonic overtone series that we need for that style to carry an operatic howl over an orchestra. With a pop singer, there's a lot broader range we can get because we have a microphone, and it also depends on what we're hearing behind it with instruments. So in this moment, this sound makes its own unique sound and isn't that youthful, more simple sound because that larynx is lowered. It gives us that more complex, more mature sound. That's what's going on. Try it today. Try finding this Adam's apple here with your finger where that little bump is, and try singing with it lowered, and try to keep it in that same position as you're going up and down the scale. So that pitch should not change this larynx position. And then try with it high and see what happens if you keep it high and what that does to shape your sound. Try to not let it get tight here in the tongue and jaw. Try to keep everything else the same, that nice suspended breath, nice consistent breath flow, nice release in the jaw, keeping that tongue flexible and passive. All those things that we know are contributors to a healthy vocal technique, but just try to shift this one thing and see what happens to the sound. See how it shapes the sound differently. So why would we choose one position over the other? Well, it all depends on what we're trying to communicate. If the story we're telling is supposed to come from a voice of a younger, more naive, more innocent character, or as a more simple sound, then we might want to experiment with a higher larynx position. If we're wanting to play a more mature, richer, more complex character, then we might want to play with that larynx position further down. So it has a lot to do with the sound we're going for, what we're trying to communicate. And you're saying character? Wait, this is a pop song. There aren't characters. We've talked about this before, but reminding you that anytime you're on stage, you're playing a character. Any song you're doing, you're playing a character. Even if it's yourself, it's a character. Every day, all day long, you're playing a character. Now, you might argue it's not a character, it's just me, everyday me. And yes, we're playing semantics. It has to do with how you define a character. But in this case, I'm defining character by a person living in a specific moment, in a specific time, with a specific context and motivation. When we're on stage, even if our context is I'm on stage singing a song as this person, that's a character. It's usually a very boring character and we don't want to play that on stage. And here they aren't doing that. Instead, they are locking into a particular situation, thoughts, memories, and emotions that they're trying to communicate that are not just performers on a stage doing their thing. So, yes, characters. Okay, we just went from a more melodic, lyric style of vocal production to a much more speech-like, simple sound. What is it that changed? Well, this jaw came back up a little bit. This oropharynx position collapsed. He went back to that more aspirate, air-heavy side of the balance between force of vocal fold closure and airflow coming through it. Consequently, it got more speech-like, little less melodic. The airflow wasn't as consistent. Is that a problem? No, it's a style. It's this moment is creating contrast. They're doing it on purpose. Is that what we usually try to teach when someone comes into a voice lesson at the start? No, we want them to learn how to sing in that balanced phonation all the time first, so that then they can break the rules when they need to get certain sounds and styles, but that they can do it under their own control and not just because that's how they do it when they sing those notes or those pitches in this moment. We want to be an artist. We want to do what we're doing on stage by choice and not by uninformed habit. What I love with watching BTS is that clearly they know how to sing in this balanced place. And because when they're singing the more demanding stuff, that's where they live. In this moment, it's not as vocally demanding, and they want to shift in mood, and they want this more relaxed kind of feeling in this moment, and so they break the rules. Again, does it mean they're doing something bad or wrong? No, it just means they aren't doing what we would teach beginning singers to do. Because just like anything, we learn how to follow the rules and do it correctly first. Then as we begin to master our art form, we learn how to break the rules in intelligent, informed ways that make meaning, that are interesting, and add to our creative expression. Because remember, vocal technique, acting technique, all these things are just tools to help us reach the ultimate goal of being able to communicate with our audience and to reach them, to move them. Love what I'm seeing here. I think it's a really nice change and gives us some really nice contrast here. Still, is it healthy? Is he causing damage to his voice? No, not causing damage to his voice. He's letting the mic do his job, keeping it speech-like, and still, because the placement is consistent, it still matches with the rest and gives us contrast, and yet at the same time is consistent enough to make it sound like it belongs with everything else. Love it. Then vocally, they come right back to this much more balanced phonation where it's cleaner, crisper, that jaw's releasing, oropharynx space opening up, staying that ass space, much more consistent airflow. There we are. Gorgeous. As always, I love what they're doing in both these videos. Really cool. So much that we could talk about. So many really excellent things going on here. And I love the juxtaposition. I love how they inform each other when we're watching both videos together. Really, really fun. Hope you enjoyed playing the game too. I didn't really listen to much K-pop before I started doing these reaction videos. But since doing them and really watching a lot of them, I am so impressed by what I'm seeing. It really is amazing work, both vocally and in terms of performance-wise, what they're doing with this stage there. Really, really exceptional work across the board. What I think would be awesome is to be able to spend a week at a time at different intervals following a group from the very beginning through the very end to document what they're doing. What are these groups doing? And what does that daily life, daily routine really look like from a professional teacher's point of view? From someone who is used to training people day in and day out, what are these people doing? Because they're doing something pretty awesome. Love it. I'm sure there are videos out there that do that, and I've watched some of them, but I would love to be that fly on the wall watching to see what's really going on here. So exceptional. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below with what you like, what you learned, what you want to hear more of. If you want a voice lesson, a performance coaching, or want me to work with you or your group to help you sing easier or perform more consistently, book a time with me at mrperformingartstudio.com. I look forward to working with you online.